Everybody. My name is Patricia Lataif. I'm the co-founder of 51 Labs. It's very nice to have you all with us here, and I hope we have some new faces today, and also some of you probably have been with us in the past. We're very excited about today's webinar, which is going to be about leveraging social media data. And we have a guest here with us who will be taking over from me in a moment. We have Anthony here, who is a data scientist and project manager, and is an expert on social media data and natural language processing techniques. So Anthony will be delivering this webinar for us. And Anthony, if you would like to give an introduction, please feel free. So I will be muting everyone during the webinar just so we don't have any background noise. And if anyone is having any trouble hearing or has any questions, please feel free to send a message in the chat box. You can send me a message privately. My name is 51 Labs here if you want to send a message. The webinar is being recorded, so we will be uploading the link after this session in case you had trouble hearing. Anthony, I'm going to hand over to you. If you need anything, let me know. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you all for being here. I'm very happy to be here and discuss with you about leveraging social media data to do some data analysis on social media data. First, maybe let me share my screen just to make you a quick presentation. Can you see my screen right now?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. First, I'd like to introduce myself. So, as you said, I'm Anthony Offray. I'm project manager and data scientist at Massive Analytics, which is a data science consulting company. I'm 28 and I'm currently based in Paris, in France. So just to explain to you what is my job actually is, it is to actually do data science is every general fields. So I'm an expert in data science in social media, but not only, because we are a very general firm. So we also do some artificial intelligence and prediction in general. We do some data visualization and web mapping on any data. That could be social media, that could be satellite imagery, it could be also, I don't know, transactions in digital finance, telco data, and so on. I also can speak French because, of course, I'm French and fluent in English and Spanish. And I also speak a little Arabic, but very, very few, because I learned it at school. Just one thing about me and my experience in social media data. I'm mostly, in my experience, I've been mostly focusing on social media data applied on, I would say, public issues. Meaning, for example, understanding, for example, people's opinion in general in a country or in a city, or also, I don't know, relating to specific topics. For example, if people like what's happening right now in their country, politically, or in situation of wars, etc., etc. I will explain it and go into details later. But just to let you know that my focus is not really to leverage social media data in for a specific business. For example, for a company, we don't do it much. I know how to do it, but it's not our specialty. We are mostly in on public issues. So now, just one word about my company. We are data scientists, so we have this technical background to bring some consultancy to our customers. We usually use innovative techniques to solve specific problems. But we're also, I would say, what is the difference between us and other French companies, for example, is that we are field practitioners, meaning that we usually go in the countries for which we on which we work, because we mainly work in the Middle East and Africa. So instead of just, I would say, analyze data staying here in Paris, we also go to the countries in which we have to do some work. Actually, I recently came to Soli to meet with one of our customers to deliver a training. But unfortunately, we didn't have time to meet, so this is why we're doing this webinar right now. So to bring some precision on what we do at Mass Analytics, we do data mining and prediction in general, but we are also specialized in geospatial data and social media data. And as I said, we work in Europe, but not only, also in Africa and the Middle East, and sometimes in Asia too, for very different kinds of customers, such as, for example, the World Bank, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the European Commission, or also mobile operators like HSL, Roshan, Airtel, Orange in France and in Africa, etc., etc. So this slide is just to let you know that we use usually open source tools that could be important in what I say later, because we don't use actually some paid software to analyze the social media data. Maybe on your side you already have some this kind of tools that are very specific platform to analyze social media data, but it's not exactly what we do. What we usually is that the client has a specific problem, and we solve it using only open source tools to make a really to bring a solution that is clearly what the user actually needs, and not a very general solution that could be used by everyone. So just to give you some examples of what we do, I will go quick on these examples because our focus will be mainly social media data. But for example, we used some satellite imagery to detect refugee presence in Lebanon, because these are informal refugee camps, to help, for example, to bring food or to bring some healthcare, etc. in places that are not listed by official organizations. We also did some satellite imagery analysis to assess destructions in conflict zones. So typically here, for example, we did it in Mosul. This allows to target zones that are the most destructed, and to target zones where to build, to detect zones where to concentrate the efforts to rebuild the city. We also did in Yemen and in Syria too. Quickly also, we also use some telco data, so mobile operator data, to detect markets in some countries, in African countries typically, in order to reach people that are usually far from I would say mobile ownership or the digital sector in general. So now something that can be useful actually in social media is to analyze the thing is that we analyze customer journey in telco data to understand how people use actually the service, and this is something that we also could apply on social media. So now we go into actually what we do in social media. So as I said, we mostly work on specific issues that are mostly related to public issues and not business or private issues. So here, for example, in this use case, the idea was to assess the audience reactions to the US Embassy in Libya, specifically in Facebook content. Here, what we do is that we are able to get the data from social networks. So, for example, by using APIs. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but you can extract a huge amount of social media data using APIs that are actually services. I'm hearing some noise, people speaking.
Sorry, I will try and find the person and mute.
No problem, no problem. Okay, so what I said is that we actually extracted some huge data content. For example, all the posts from a Facebook page or Facebook public page only, because of course, because of privacy issues, we are not able to extract personal data. For example, on personal pages on Facebook, we are not able to extract the data. We only do it on public pages. And so we extract the posts, the comments, the images, the videos, etc., to analyze it. So here, for example, we wanted to know what people thought about the post on the Facebook page of the US Embassy. And the way we analyze it is that we use natural language processing techniques to actually extract some sense from the huge amount of text that we have. So, for example, on the right here, you can see that we use some word clouds. And thanks to word clouds, you can see what all the words that are the mostly used by people when they comment on this page. So, for example, you have some different reactions. Like, for example, people say it's legitimate. Some say that they lie. Some say that they interfere with something. We don't know what exactly here, but we have first ideas on what people actually say on social media. Now, to go further into the analysis, we also do what we call some sentiment analysis. So when you do some sentiment analysis, you try to understand people's feeling when they comment. Are they happy? Are they unhappy? Do they say positive things or negative things? Or also, do they express that they are sad or that they are laughing at what you say, and so on. So here we are able to sort in this example what comments are positive, negative, or neutral, and it is an example from Libya here, and for each topic. So, for example, the topics here were the government of national accord, the constitution, what people thought about terrorism, Libya in general, what they thought about ISIS, what they thought about the leader Haftar, etc., etc. And we're able to detect what people thought about each topic. For example, here people are very happy about government of national accord, but very unhappy about United Nations, for example. And this is interesting because we're able to sort all the comments by topic by detecting specific keywords in the comments or in the tweets, for example. And we are able to actually have an idea of what people can think about each topic. So, for example, if you want to apply it on the business side, for example, for your company, if you have, for example, a Facebook page or a Twitter account, you are able to extract all the comments from your page, and you can tell if I don't know, for any service that you propose or any product that you have, you can see if people are have positive feelings about it or negative. And using the word clouds, you can actually see what people talk about when they talk about your product or service. So please let me know at the end of this presentation if you have any question or comments on what I'm presenting to you right now. So next, next slide is quite the same idea, except that we actually focused on another topic, and the topic was understanding journeys of migrants. So we have been extracting some data on Facebook pages that were actually used by migrants, and we were able to see why exactly people, what people thought, for example, about Germany in this case. So in this case, we were able to see why people wanted to Germany, what is their image of Germany, what is the motivation to go there, what are the reasons why they focus on this country and not on in other countries like France or UK. And we're able to understand actually what they thought about the country. And on the other charts just below, you're able to see the activity of the Facebook page, and we can see that it is usually related with actual real life events. So it's something that we usually do here in Mass Analytics, is that we compare online activity with what I would call offline activity, meaning that does something that happens in real life. For example, high European arrivals of Syrians, or I don't know, specific conflict issues in the country. Does it impact the number of comments, the number of negative reactions, and this kind of thing? Here is what we did in Iraq, typically, because we've been studying extremist groups who have, as we know, a sophisticated and intense usage of social media to spread some propaganda and so on. So what we analyzed is that the institution we've been working for, they hired some influencers in Iraq to actually do some counter communication versus violent extremism on social media. So they spread some messages that were really different from ISIS or this kind of groups, and we were here to assess if these campaigns worked well or not. So once again, we analyzed the activity. For example, if the number of comments or the number of shares or the number of reactions, the likes, and so on, had some specific peaks over time. Here is a fake example, of course, but at each peak, we're able to see, thanks to the word clouds, what people said exactly. If they were mostly positive or negative reactions to this to the posts and to the tweets and so on in the comments, and we're able to have a full picture on people's reaction in this time of conflict. So once again, I suppose you are mostly interested in the business part, on how you can apply it on yourself. I think the closest use case for you would be to, for example, if you launched I don't know, a communication campaign, or you launch a new product or a new service, you can have this kind of thing to detect and compare, for example, the date that you launch your product or service in terms of date, and then compare it with what happens on social media. Do people react directly? Do people react a bit later? Do they have a positive opinion on it, a negative one? Or do you see nothing on social media because for some reason your campaign didn't work, etc., etc. Just two last examples. One in Afghanistan, in which we analyzed the media landscape. So this is another type of analysis that we can do, is to detect influencers in social media. So that would be really useful for you. I will explain why later. But in this specific case, we were able to detect what media in the country were the most followed and how they interacted with one another. So for example, here we can see that BBC, Pashto and Persian were quite powerful because they have a lot of followers. Here we represent it as a network. The bigger the bubble, the more followers follow the account. And the arrows here represent who follows who, or who retweets the other a lot, etc., to have a full picture on what happens on social media, how do people interact with each other, or what people say to each other, and so on. So this could be interesting for you, because if you detect that in your audience you have very influential people, it is very important for you to rely on these people and maybe have a talk with them to or to hire them, I don't know, to promote your product or service. And by this way you can see what other people are connected to these influencers, and you can know what is the reach of your campaign when you launch a new campaign on a new product or new service. Maybe I won't go into detail on this one because it's quite similar to the previous one, and I go directly to just a platform that we made. Let me just share something else. Sorry, I'm just looking at what it is. Yes. Okay, so you should see now a web page on which we you can see a network. So here is an example of deliverable. So it's a fake one again, on a complete platform that we made to represent what we did in Syria in this case. So here, what we did is that we wanted to detect the influencers. So we had an initial list on people that we knew that they were influencers, and we used what we call a snowball algorithm, meaning that we start from these guys that are very followed on social media, and we try to expand to the network to detect other very influential people. And going through this network, we detect more and more influential accounts, people that are really followed by many other people. And in the end, we are able to have a full picture of all the influencers in the country, be it in general or on a specific topic. And we are able to see how they interact with each other. So here what you can see is, for example, Revolution Syria here. And if we click on it, so you can see that it's not very clear, because here we can see maybe more on this one. we can see who follows who on Twitter. And it's not very clear, for example, if you take this specific one, who they follow or who they are followed by, etc. So thanks to the platform, you can click on this one and just isolate it and see who follows this specific account. Another thing that we implemented is here you can get all the information on the account that you clicked on. And here on the bottom right, you have a word cloud of all the posts on a given period for this person. So this is what the person just puts into its tweets. And we also have a functionality to translate it. So for example, here, this account mostly talks about Al-Assad, Idlib, Syria, the Syrians, the Russian Federation, and so on. So we can go back to the initial one. Another example is with the same accounts, who retweets who. And what's interesting is that we also implemented a functionality to, for example, when, I don't know, here in this case, when Adnan Alaro retweets Omawi Life, for example, here is the content of the tweets that they retweet. So it's just a word cloud specifically on the interactions between these two accounts that we can translate again. So this is an example of nice data visualization that is interactive and online. And this is basically the kind of deliverable that we do, depending on the need of the customer. That can be some presentations, some reports, or online tools like this one to be able to explore the network and have more insights on the influencers that could be interesting to cooperate with or to follow. Maybe as a conclusion of this presentation that consisted mainly in showing some example of what we do, I would say that the principle is that we actually go further than just automated tools, because you have on the market, you have a lot of tools that are not specific at all to your needs. So what happens is that they have specific functionalities that are predefined, but sometimes your need doesn't fit in this kind of functionalities. So what we do is that we don't use these automated tools. We actually do some specific analysis on what you want to, on what questions you want to answer. Second thing is we don't actually just take the data and put some automatic algorithm on it to get some insights. We also have some human intervention. We have some experts of the country and also some experts in the language that we study to make sure we don't make some mistakes. Because, for example, if you use some automated translation, for example, I don't know if sometimes if you try Google Translate, they don't give you sometimes the good translations. So it's very important to have some human intervention in your analysis. If you need to translate some content in different languages, because we had a lot of cases in which we translated a very important word in a wrong way, and if we didn't take into account the experts or the translator opinion of what should be the right translation, we would be misled by the results, and we would draw the wrong conclusion in the end. So it's very important to have some human intervention in the algorithm that we use, the scripts that analyze the data, do the word cloud, the sentiment analysis, or also we do some topic identification on the social media data, and it's to get in the end a high quality on what you get as insights for in social media analysis. So I think this is all for me. So as I said, these were examples mainly on public issues, but I guess maybe you have some more specific question on how all this can be related to your specific case, to your specific business. So maybe we can go through questions. I don't know.
Thank you, Anthony. Yes, that sounds great. So I have given you guys the permission to unmute yourself. So if anybody has a question, please feel free to either unmute yourself or to type the question in the question box. I'm just typing it in here because I know some of you guys can't hear. Anthony, there's some messages to me privately saying thank you so much. There was also one that said, would it be possible to see the slides or to have a copy of the slides?
Yes, no problem. I can send it to you right after the webinar. Yeah,
that's perfect. I actually had one question, which maybe others have the same, which is if someone wanted to learn more about these tools, because I think at least myself, I'm not familiar, and I think a lot of the entrepreneurs we work with might not be familiar, but how do they start learning about how to use some of these things that you've talked about?
Actually, the tools that we use are not what I would call user-friendly, because as we are data scientists, for example, I know that there is on the market some specific platforms on which you can find some insights on social media data, on your specific accounts, and so on. And usually there are paid solutions. But usually they are quite limited in the functionalities that they have. So what we do is that we really have the data scientist approach, is that we get the raw data and transform it into actual insights. Specifically, the tools that we use, I don't know if you are familiar with this kind of programming languages like Python. Typically, we use Python a lot, both to extract the data and to process it and analyze it and make the data visualization. And so to learn this tool, you have a lot of tutorials that are available online. But it is really some programming skills that you need to have to reproduce what we actually do here.
Okay, that makes sense. So it might require some more advanced skills than something general. I mean, I imagine that, you know, this kind of analysis is very, oh, someone is asking, I'm a Python developer. What tools should I get to manipulate these data? I'll leave that to you since I know nothing about Python.
So I actually, just to make it clear, Python is just a programming language, so it is a way to program. But as you are a Python developer, I can tell you some examples of what we use, because in Python you have some specific packages that are like toolboxes that can be added to Python to bring some specific to process some specific analysis. So for example, you can have an LTK. Maybe I can write it down also here. For natural language processing. You have also the package word cloud to do the word clouds. Also,
Anthony, you're typing these
Yeah.
to me privately. I don't know if you meant to do that.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Let's get back to everyone. Yeah. So let me copy this. So NLTK is called short term for short letters for Natural Language Toolkit. We use also GenSim for specific analysis like sentiment analysis or topic identification. And if you want to go further to build your own, I don't know, sentiment analysis model or I don't know, topic identification model, you can use scikit-learn, but it's really harder because it's not ready to use models. But you need to build it yourself by learning it through the data. So it's basically machine learning or artificial intelligence. But to start with, you can just use NLTK, Word Cloud, and GenSim to analyze the data. Yes, so the next question is, does TensorFlow and ML can help me? Yes, completely. Some models are available on. So actually, scikit-learn is the most used machine learning. So ML is machine learning. Is the most used machine learning tool that is used in Python. It's almost the only one. And TensorFlow to do some neural network to train some models on text mining. It can actually be used in this case. Once again, it is also you can use it on following some tutorials to know exactly how to make these models. Because I think I cannot go right now into the technical details of how you can have to build some models, etc. Because I think it's not the purpose of this webinar. Yes, Udemy course can be used, but you can also find some on Open Classroom that can be usually free. They have some good tutorials on a lot of things, and specifically machine learning and deep learning. So you can use it, yes. And the question was, do you recommend any Udemy course? I can't remember of the exact reference for this, but maybe I can have a look and put it in the presentation I sent to you in the end.
That's perfect. That would be great. So we can send everyone the presentation afterward.
Yeah, exactly.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I don't know if you already use some tools, specific tools on your, I don't know, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram accounts to get some feedbacks on your own accounts, or if you have any questions on anything else.
Oh, I think if you have recommendations, that would be great. You know, because I think many people, and I assume that most of the entrepreneurs who are here in this call are probably selling their services or products on social media. So I think it's a good, if you have any tools that they can use to assess the customers or the people who are on their page, that would be very helpful.
You mean in terms of social media account management, or?
Yeah, I don't, if there are tips from a business standpoint. I don't know if they should be using, for example, just the data that Instagram or Facebook or Twitter give automatically, or if there are other ways to look at the information.
Actually, I think there are a lot of things that are already given by the social media themselves. So I'm not myself really into sorry, I'm not a lot into social media management itself.
Sure.
I'm more into social media data analysis afterwards. But I know that, for example, I don't know if all of you know this tool on Facebook. For example, let me check if I can find it. Because you usually have the basic tools. Maybe on a specific page. Yes, I will share my screen. I think it will be easier. Let me check. Wait. There is a tool that is called Facebook Insights, for example. I don't know if you know of. I will share my screen when I find it. Okay, so let me maybe just share it.
Excuse me?
Yes?
Oh, hi there.
Hi.
Hi. I had a question. I thought that you have experienced, realizing techniques to make topics, to change topics, specific topics to, what is called topic of the day. What could possibly push uh, specific topics to to a change like that, like you make it like somehow popular? What could be used, what strategies can help with that? Like for example, lately uh, in terms of technology, uh, the the fight between two specific companies, like it's more like a race than a fight between two specific companies, Intel and AMD, became a, it was a change, it was a dramatic change by itself. But what if there's something that you want to somehow explode in double quotations among people, so that everyone becomes interested in it?
So your question is, how can I actually push a specific topic on social media to make it, I don't know, visible by a lot of people and so on?
Exactly. That's it in short.
Basically, with I would say maybe priority one would be to rely on the codes of the specific social network, because you can see that, for example, if you're on Instagram or on Facebook or on Twitter or other social networks, they have different codes. For example, if you're on Twitter, you know that videos will work quite well. You have to use the correct hashtags that are known by a lot of people. You can
Okay, so
also,
one of the ways is like, sorry if I'm interrupted you, hashtags work quite well.
yes, it can work quite well if there are hashtags that are already known by people. Because usually people search what they're interested in by hashtag, and it is a way to recognize it. But if you create a new hashtag that doesn't exist anywhere, usually it doesn't work. For example, if you're on Instagram, it all works with a beautiful picture because it is really the picture social network. So if you have poor pictures, it won't work. LinkedIn needs to be very professional. And Facebook, for example, is less and less used by people. So this is the first thing, really understanding the code of each social media, using the right hashtags and so on, to have really some quality in your publication. Second, I would say is, well, of course, to increase your audience, but this will come by creating some quality content, as I said previously. Or the second thing is to go through an influencer. I think it's the method that works the most. If you meet an influencer, someone that already has a lot of followers, this can be, for example, to start just a friend or somebody you know that could just talk about your page or your product or your brand and so on. I think this will be the most efficient way to get some new followers, just to just by doing some advertisements.
Yeah,
So it can
like
be
on YouTube, people ask for shout outs from popular YouTubers. Then their channel is mentioned by those popular people, and they get more subscribers. That's yeah.
yeah,
Thank you for mentioning that. It was a good
yeah,
point.
exactly, yeah. And actually, for example, the tool that I presented before is a way to detect the influencers. So you have two options. If you're a very small company with not a lot of money, you can rely on just people that you know that have a lot of followers, and just ask them if they would be okay to share to talk about your social media account, about your brand, about your product, your service. And second option is if you have enough money, what is done quite widely almost everywhere in the world for companies that have enough money is to pay these influencers to make them actually speak about your page and do some advertisements on it. But you need
Thank
to
you very
select
much.
you need to select accurately the audience that you want to target, because different influencers have different audiences. So if you want to, I don't know, if your product is for young people, you really need to select an influencer that has an audience with a lot of young people in it, and not any
Definitely.
influencer just because of number of followers.
Definitely. Thank you very much
Yeah, you're
for
welcome.
sharing your time with us. I appreciate it really.
Yeah, thank you. I think there is a question. Okay, actually there are two questions. Do you prefer selling these tools by yourselves as entrepreneurs, or hire or make partnership with data scientists? I would say it highly depends on once again on the money you currently have. If you really, at the moment, if you're really a startup that has that just started and that has no money, and that you really want to invest on it, maybe the best way would be to learn it by yourself, at least to start with it. But if you have enough money for it, I think it's better to hire or make a partnership with data scientists, because data science is a very technical field, and it really takes a lot of time to learn it. So I think it's not something you can learn in just 2 or 3 days, and I think it will always work best if you hire someone that is really specifically skilled with data science. I hope it answered the question. And next question is, we have a digital marketing agency and we would like to embark a new journey in research area. Is that fine for you to share your contact info to contact you on this regards? Yes, definitely. If you have any questions, or any request, you will just find in the presentation my my contact information.
That's great. Thank you, Anthony.
Okay.
Are there any final questions? I don't know if anyone is sending you anything privately.
Sorry?
I said, are there any other questions from anybody?
Not that I see. Oh, yeah, because the last two questions were sent privately.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't see more. Just what I wanted to show you. I will share my screen. I don't know if you're aware of this one. Because you have the Facebook basic tools, but you also have what we call Facebook Insights, audience insights. For example, if you have a Facebook page with a sufficient number of followers, here you can have more insight on the audience, who they are, for example, in this case. So are they men or women? Sorry, in this case, it's in French. I don't know if I can change this. Well, anyway, I will just show you and explain straight away. So here you can see there are single, couples, married, and so on. If they're in high school, university. What is the interest of the audience that you have on your page? Is it art? Is this IT? Is this education, etc.? What is their job also, if they mention it in their presentation? What other pages do they usually like? So here you can see that a lot of people on this page like the Coca-Cola page, the Oreo page, etc., etc. So you can see what are the interests, the other interests of your followers. You can also see where they come from. For example, are they from the I know from Iraq? Are they from Suli? From Erbil? From the Hook, etc., etc. What language they speak also. And also their the activity on the page, and do they use a computer or a mobile phone or an iPad, for example, to reach your page. So this is a very rich source of information on your followers. And on the left here, you have some filters if you want to have some information only on on men or on women. To compare it with average figures. So this is an example of tools that can be used directly, freely, if you have a Facebook page. But you also have some other tools that are really that are usually paid tools, and that can be used to do some things that are similar to what I showed you, but that are usually paid solutions, and usually they are very, very expensive, actually. Let me check. Okay.
Any questions from anyone else or comments? It seems those are all the questions, Anthony, unless you have anything on your side.
On my side, I don't have much more.
Okay.
I could go into details into, I would say, the technical parts, but I think it's not the purpose here. I won't show you some Python codes or anything, of course. But yes, if you have any questions or any request on how you could learn to do the things that I showed before, don't hesitate to contact me, send me a mail or anything. and I'd be glad to answer and give you some tips on how you could actually leverage some of your social media data in the future.
That would be great. Thank you. And thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight. And we also, for everyone who's in the room, we will circulate the recording and the presentation, Anthony, once you send that to us, which I think you mentioned has your contact details. So thank you everyone for signing in tonight. And Anthony, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you very much for hearing and being here. It was a real pleasure to talk with you on this social media data analysis issue. Thank you very much.
Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.